Hello everyone. Welcome to yet another session of the Daily News Analysis by SRIRAM'S IAS, where we take up the important articles featuring in the Hindu newspaper and break them down for our understanding from the UPSC examination point of view. So, we'll take up today's important articles. Due to some technical glitches in recording, we could not do the articles of yesterday. So what we'll do today is that we'll take some articles from yesterday's newspaper, that is from 6th December, and as well as from today's the Hindu newspaper. So let's start our today's discussion. So the important articles which are featuring in the Hindu newspaper are on our screens, and let's take up the first article for the day. The first article, which appears in the newspaper, reads The Lingering Crisis of Labor Post Pandemic. Now, why is this article appearing in the newspaper? Because the along with this article, let's also read one more headline. ILO meet begins today and the Director General calls for social security for all. So now why are these two articles appearing in the newspaper? Because on the context of the ILO, or the International Labour Organization, has recently published two reports, such as the Global Wage Report of 2022 and 2023 and the Asia Pacific Employment and Social Outlook Report of 2022. So these two landmark reports have been published by the ILO, and as we saw from the second article, the International Labour Organization is also convening its meeting. So these two articles highlight that the ILO has given out data which provides insight into the global employment scenario, including wages following the pandemic. So, as we all know, in the prelims examination, the important reports are often asked as to which organization publishes them. So, the global wage report from this perspective becomes important, and the kind of data it gives us with respect to the global employment scenario, that becomes important for us to know. And whenever we see a question on labor or its related aspects, we can quote the data from this global wage report. So from this particular article, we'll analyze what this global wage report says, what does it have in terms of predicting the future, and what does it give as data for the past 2-3 years. So when we talk about why this report is important, why this report becomes important is because of the timing that this report is coming out in. We all know that the past 2-3 years have been very tragic for the whole world, where already the economic slowdown was there before COVID, and then COVID-19 pandemic struck and it created striking decline in real monthly wages and economic slowdown around the world. And if COVID-19 was not enough, the war in Ukraine and the global energy crisis further aggravated the situation. So this is what the global wage report is also indulging in, that it is analyzing the impact of these mega events, the war in Ukraine, COVID-19 pandemic, the inflation caused around the world, and viewing from these prisms, it is wanting to analyze what has happened for labor class across the world. And the second report, Asia Pacific Employment and Social Outlook 2022, says that the Asia Pacific region lost about 22 million jobs in 2022. So these are the gist of these two reports. And now let's analyze what these reports have to say in detail and what can we make from this. So, and apart from this, what solutions or remedies this report is suggesting. So let's understand before starting this report what exactly is ILO, or that particular organization which takes out these reports. So when we talk about ILO, or the International Labour Organization, it is the only tripartite United Nations agency established in 1990. Now, what do we mean by only tripartite United Nations agency? So tripartite means that a body which has three-sided participation. So ILO is the only body which has participation from governments, employers, and workers. So those workers which are working in the companies and places across countries, 187 member states, that is, have a participation in the ILO. So this organization is unique in the form that even the workers have a say in ILO. And what does ILO do? It aims to set labor standards, develop policies, and devise programs promoting decent work for all women and men. Therefore, furthering with this aim and objective, it has taken out the global wage report and other report in order to analyze the situation, give out credible data in order to facilitate better solutions for the struggling worker class. So let's analyze what this report says. And before we get on to the data, let's understand the basic definitions before that would help us to analyze the report better. So the first important definition that we should understand is how is the word wage defined first of all. So what do we mean by wage? It is the total gross remuneration which includes bonuses that is given to the worker from time to time, which is earned by employees during a given period for time worked or not worked. Because time which is not worked can be counted as paid leave, sick leave. So any person during this given period of time, it can either be a month, a day, or a year. ILO for its report takes into account the period of month. So whatever remuneration is being earned by the employee during a month's working period with leaves counted is basically the wage of that particular employee. So now in wage also there are two types of wages. One is the nominal wage and one is the real wage. Now what do we mean by nominal wage? A nominal wage is that amount paid by an employer in exchange for labor. It's just that this particular nominal wage, it does not account the impact of inflation, or simply saying this nominal wage is not inflation adjusted. So what do we mean by this? Whenever a person or a worker is earning some salary with respect to his labor, the inflation is also rising, and with respect to the inflation, how much wage is changing, that won't be reflected in the nominal wage. And whenever we take inflation into account, that wage would become the real wage. Therefore a real wage has been adjusted for inflation. If the nominal wage grows at a slower rate than the rate of inflation, the purchasing power will decline, right? This is a very logical thing where nominal wage, which means that let's say that the wage in the month of November 2022 and the wage of December 2022 for an employee, if the wage is increasing but the rate of inflation is faster than this particular nominal wage increase, what it would mean that the money that is coming into the worker's pocket, he or she would not be able to spend it as much as he would want to, because the purchasing power of that money due to rising inflation has gone down. So this is also the relationship between nominal wage, inflation, and real wage. So these are the definitions. Now let's understand what the report has to say in respect to India. And when we talk about where did the ILO take its data from? So it has taken its data from the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So according to the ministry's data, the nominal wages rose to 17,000 per month in 2021 from 4,398 rupees in 2006. So we can say that the wages increased manifold from the year 2006 to 2021. So this shows that there has been a significant increase in the nominal wages. But when inflation is taken into account in this particular period, the real wage growth has actually fallen to 0.2% in 2021, down from 9.3% in 2006. So we can see the stark difference over here where nominal wages have increased, but because of the multi-rising inflation, the real wage growth has not been that much, and it has only been a meager 0.2% in 2021, which was 9.3% in 2006. So we can see that the inflation is increasing and it is causing an impact on people's wages, and that is why the real wages is not increasing that substantially. And if we take a contrasting example of China, the real wage growth in China was around 2% in the period of 2019 to 2022. So this is a reason for worry for Indian employment scenario, where the wages, yes, have increased, but the inflation has increased at a faster pace that has decreased the real wage growth. This is the scenario for India. So what does the global wage report say? That these kind of scenarios will have an impact on Indian job scenario. So all these impact we can very well observe around us. It's just that this particular report corroborates that observation through credible data. So what does it say? It says that when such kind of job losses and decrease in wages is happening due to these unprecedented circumstances that we are witnessing for the past 2-3 years, millions of workers are going to be in a dire situation, because the increasing cost of living, as we saw, the wage is growing, but faster than the wage growth is the rate of inflation, which is bringing down the effective purchasing power for people, and this is increasing the cost of living, and who will this particular increasing cost of living have the most impact on? It would not impact harmfully much the high income earners. It is the lower income earners, or those who are earning in subsistence basis, those are the ones that this particular increase in cost of living will have the greatest impact on. And when this will happen, when a situation is arising where the people who are well off are not affected that much, they are able to function uh, relatively well, but those low income earners who are more affected, as it is their situation was not very good, now they will be more affected where the purchasing power is declining for them. So in this way, income inequality will rise, and if income inequality is rising for the low income earners, the absence of poverty is going to rise. So the report says that 75 to 95 million people were pushed into extreme poverty during the COVID-19 period. This is the impact that the global wage report talks about. So what are the remedies then which are suggested by the ILO? The ILO suggests certain broad-based remedies. It says that in order to cater to the situation, which is that certain external situations are coming and the wages, especially for the lower income class, is decreasing, what we need is a policy level intervention, which means that government should come into the picture and make sure that those people who are not well off are given certain protections, that their condition is also catered to. So for example, the report says that in the bargaining process for future nominal wage adjustments, prudent price estimates should be included. This means that certain cushion can be given to those those lower income wage earners, so that their position is also taken care of. Secondly, the ILO says that it should strengthen labor market institutions and wage policies. This would help when we talk about strengthening labor market institution. This is done to again strengthen the position of the income earner, so that their voice is also heard and their grievance, if any, is also taken care of. And good wage policies would mean that they should have at least better policies for minimum wages. Certain sick leaves, certain social security schemes are accounted for them. This would account for a good wage policy. And then the ILO report says that government should focus on the gender pay gap. So the gender pay gap is also an issue, and whenever such situations arise, high inflation or economic slowdown, the impact on the feminine gender with respect to job losses is way more. So even during the COVID, the men lost their jobs, but more number of women lost their jobs, and again, it brings a disproportionate impact on the other gender. So that is why the gender pay gap also needs to be addressed. Then the ILO says that there is an urgent need to address the negative effects of certain broad-based things, where if we attack them, we will be catering to and finding solutions for a lot of things. What are these phenomena? So first of all is the phenomenon of climate change. Why do we need to address the negative effects of climate change in order to save the labor market? Is because when we are continuously seeing that because of climate change, it is decreasing the productivity of the workers. So therefore, handling climate change will automatically give us positive solutions in with respect to the productivity of the workers. Then we need to decrease in increasing inequalities, and poverty, discrimination, violence, and exclusion should be taken care of. And the next important thing is that the lack of vaccines, inadequate access to sanitation, and essential healthcare for all should be assured for everyone, because we this as healthcare is something which is important and vital for everyone. And we see that whenever the low income earners are put in this place where even one member of the family falls ill, nearly all of their earnings are spent on accessing the healthcare, which gives a big dent to their everyday living. That is why at least healthcare facilities for all, essential ones, should be given to them. And then growing digital divide should also be catered to, because more the digital divide will increase, it will increase the inequality and the access to opportunities, which are going to increase in the market, the new types of employment opportunities which are going to come. The people who are not into this digital fold won't be able to access it. So therefore, the digital divide needs to be curbed. So when we'll take care of these broad based problems, we would see that there can be improvements in the employment sector as well. So this is the snapshot of the global wage report which the ILO has taken out. We understood what the report has to say with respect to data, what solutions it is giving, and what is the ILO all about. So we finish this article over here, and let's move on to our next article for the day. The next article which appears in the newspaper reads, "Why are fisherfolk protesting the Vizhinjam port project?" Now, this spelling which we see, Vizhinjam, this is a Malayali word, and this pronunciation is different from what it is written as. It is pronounced as Vizhinjam project. Even I might not be pronouncing it very correctly, but that's the nearest I can go to it. So, why is this article appearing in the newspaper? Because there is a new port coming in the state of Kerala. We can see the location over here. It is located near the city of Tiruvananthapuram in the state of Kerala. And this is a new mega port that is being developed in a public-private partnership between the government of Kerala and the Adani Group, which is quite prominent and famous for developing and handling ports. So why is the construction of port coming into flashlight, and why are protests happening against it? So we'll analyze why these protests are happening and what is the whole issue surrounded with the Vizhinjam port. So this Vizhinjam near Tiruvananthapuram is on the boil due to the under construction Vizhinjam port project from both sea and land. This port project is basically an international transshipment deep water multi-purpose seaport. Is an ambition project taken by the government of Kerala. It is designed primarily to cater container transshipment besides multi-purpose and break bulk cargo. This is being currently developed in landlord model, which is the with a public-private partnership component on a design, build, finance, operate, and transfer, or what we can shortly call as DBFOT basis. So what we can understand from this is that the Vizhinjam port project is a mega project, which means that transshipment deep water multi-purpose seaport would mean that it would be a major port and it would significantly augment the port facilities for the state of Kerala. And it is developed under a public-private partnership between the government of Kerala, who's the public part of it, and the private part of it is the Adani Group. Now, here is where the protesters have been opposing the construction work by the Adani Group, because it is developing the port on a DBFOT basis. Now, why are the people protesting? What lies at the heart of this protest? So, according to the fisherfolk, the port work has aggravated the coastal erosion along the coast of Tiruvananthapuram. A scientific study to assess the impact of the port work on the shoreline has to be conducted urgently by stopping the construction. So this is the primary problem that the fisher folk are having, that by constructing a major port in this region has actually aggravated the coastal erosion. Now, what do we mean by coastal erosion? This is the changing of the sand, or the boundary between the land and the ocean. And due to this, when we talk about coastal erosion, it is actually eroding the coastal land. And this would never mean good for the people living over there. And that is the main reason, primary reason why they're protesting against the construction of the port. The second reason is that those families who were residing in the vicinity of the port construction region, around 300 families along the coastlines were shifted to relief camps after their houses were destroyed due to high intensity coastal erosion. So these particular people are also interested in the rehabilitation package. So they are demanding a comprehensive rehabilitation package and an assured minimum wage when the sea turns rough due to the inclement weather, and subsidized kerosene for boats. So they are facing the impact of the development project that is taken up in their own area, and they're facing the brunt of it, and they want a rehabilitation package with respect to that particular thing. So why is this port project considered important? First of all, why is this port important? This port is located on the southern tip of the Indian peninsula. We all can see that in the state of Kerala, which is just 10 nautical miles from the major international sea route and east-west shipping axis. This particular point is what makes the Vizhinjam project important, because as we can see in this particular figure, if this is the region where the port is located, can we say that this point is a very strategic point which can access the cargo coming in from the Middle East or the West Asian region through the Suez Canal, from the Persian Gulf, and going into the Southeast Asian nations, on going to the China region as well. So this the position of this particular port is very significant, which can be a good transit point. That is why this particular port is very important and can hold a lot of potential. It has a natural water depth of more than 20 meters within a nautical mile from the coast. And this particular port is likely to play a pivotal role in the maritime development of the country as well as Kerala. The commissioning of the port is expected to leverage the growth of 17 minor ports in the state, along with creating thousands of employment opportunities. So the upside of construction of port is also there, where we can see that if one major port will get developed, other minor ports along with it will also get developed, and it would also create thousands of employment opportunities. So there are certain upsides to the construction of port as well. So how do we make sense out of this, or how do we find a solution for this, where the protesters are protesting, the port is also important. So this is where the area becomes important from the examination point of view, where we need to understand that yes, development is important, but along with development, we cannot ignore the environmental consequences of the development. We have been looking at the environmental consequences of the so-called development that started taking place from the industrial revolution, and we know where we have reached up until now. Global warming has started to show its effects. Incessant and unforeseen catastrophic events are being witnessed around the world. Therefore, its ample evidence is present for us to see that only development and neglecting the environmental consequence or the people who are living there is not enough. Real development is when the environmental aspect and the development aspect is going together. That is what would mean real development is taking place. So this is the discussion with respect to this particular article. We finish the articles for today's newspaper, and we'll meet again tomorrow with the important articles from the newspaper. Thank you.